My sister said she got me a special gift for my baby shower. It was a box full of used diapers. Everyone laughed. Until I announced that I had just foreclosed on her house. She shrugged and said, "Oh, don't be dramatic. You're rich, buy yourself a real gift." Hi Reddit, my name is Elena. I'm 32 years old. And right now I'm sitting in my living room still processing what just happened at my baby shower. Since I need to vent somewhere, I decided to share it with you. This isn't just petty family drama. It's the culmination of years of being taken for granted, financially exploited, and emotionally drained by my older sister Laura. If you've ever had a toxic sibling who believes they're entitled to your life, your money, and your success, all while pretending to be your biggest supporter, you might relate. But let's start with what happened today. Open it, Laura said with an exaggerated smile, her voice dripping with fake excitement as she pushed the enormous gift box towards me. The whole room was watching. Family, friends, co-workers. A picture-perfect baby shower scene with pastel balloons and a big decorative sign that said, "Welcome, little one." My hands hesitated as I pulled the ribbon. The expectant gazes of my guests made it impossible to stall for too long. Inside the box was a pile of used diapers. The laughter erupted immediately. Not polite chuckles or nervous giggles. It was boisterous, uncontrolled laughter. My mother covered her mouth, trying to contain it, but even she was shaking. Laura, the mastermind behind this pathetic prank, wiped fake tears of mirth. "Oh, come on, it's just a joke," she said, tossing her perfect blonde mane over her shoulder. "You can afford to buy real ones." Right. Because I was the rich sister. Because I worked incredibly hard while Laura spent her life bouncing from one financial disaster to another, expecting our parents and me to clean up her mess. And this wasn't the first time she'd used me as a punching bag for her own failures. Flashback, Laura, the two-faced sister. When we were little, Laura was always the golden child. Not because she was particularly talented or smart, but because she knew how to manipulate people. When we were teenagers, she'd pretend to be the perfect older sister in front of our parents. She'd help me with my hair, give me advice about boys, play the caring sibling. But behind closed doors, she was someone else entirely. I remember the night before my college entrance exam. I'd been studying for months, desperate to get a scholarship so I wouldn't have to rely on my parents to pay for tuition. Laura had just gotten home after a failed date, furious because her boyfriend of the moment hadn't bought her an expensive necklace she wanted. "Think you're so much better than me, don't you?" she'd sneered, leaning against my doorframe. Sitting there acting all smart, working like a drone. Newsflash, Elena. Money isn't about how hard you work, it's about who you know. She spent the next hour mocking me, criticizing everything I did, laughing at the way I studied, how I dressed, even my dreams of financial independence. When I finally snapped and yelled at her to leave me alone, she just smirked. "Relax," she'd said, flipping her hair back. "I'm just motivating you." When I got my scholarship and moved out, Laura suddenly became my biggest fan. She'd brag to everyone about how successful her little sister was, how she'd always believed in me. But the moment she needed money, the insults would return. "Must be nice to be able to afford anything you want," she used to say, conveniently forgetting that she'd squandered every penny she'd been given. "Don't be so selfish, Elena. It's just a loan." Ah yes, she'd been nicer before. And yet I kept helping. I covered her rent once when she was between jobs. I paid off her credit card when she cried about being too stressed. I even co-signed a loan for her, something I almost immediately regretted when she stopped making payments. And what did I get in return? A box of used diapers at my baby shower. Back to the present. My announcement. The laughter hadn't even completely died down when I decided it was time to make my own announcement. I set the box on the floor carefully, my fingers still trembling slightly, but not from humiliation, from something else entirely. "That's funny," I said, my voice light. "Really funny. Almost as funny as the fact that Laura just lost her house." The laughter stopped. Laura blinked. "What? Oh, did I forget to mention that?" I turned to the crowd. "You see, I bought her mortgage 6 months ago. She'd fallen behind on payments again. And instead of letting the bank foreclose, I thought I'd be generous. But after this little prank," I tilted my head, enjoying the way the color drained from her face, "I don't feel so generous anymore." "You're lying." Her voice trembled slightly. I pulled out my phone and with a few taps displayed the property record. Her name wasn't there anymore. Only mine. Gasps. Murmurs. My mother's eyes darted between us as the reality sunk in. Laura, I continued, sliding my phone back into my purse. I was going to surprise you. Let you stay, maybe even gift you the deed to the house. But since you think I should buy my own gifts. I let the sentence hang in the air. She let out a choked, nervous laugh. Oh, don't be dramatic. You're rich. You can afford to do the right thing. The right thing? I echoed. You mean humiliate your pregnant sister in front of all her friends and family? It was a joke, she snapped, but her voice was wavering. Ah, yes, I shot back. The classic, it was just a joke defense. Silence. Absolute, deafening silence. My father stood up, cleared his throat as if he was about to lecture me about being the bigger person. I held up a hand to stop him. No, I warned. I've been the bigger person my entire life. I've covered Laura's debts. I bailed her out when she wrecked her car. I paid for her to go back to school twice, only for her to drop out. I've let her live rent-free in that house for years. And what do I get in return? I gestured to the disgusting box in front of me. Nobody spoke. Laura's breathing became erratic. You wouldn't actually kick me out. You're right, I said, tilting my head. I'll give you a week to find somewhere else. My mother jumped to her feet. Honey, don't you think that's a little harsh? I turned to her with a smile so sweet it could have caused cavities. Mom, you have a spare bedroom, don't you? She flinched. Well, yes, but... Oh, wonderful, I said, clapping softly. Then Laura already has somewhere to stay. Laura's eyes widened in horror. I'm not living with Mom and Dad again. Well, Laura, I said sweetly, you should have thought of that before you gave me a box full of used diapers. You could have dropped a pin in the room, and it would have made more noise than the stunned silence that followed. My baby shower continued. The food was delicious. The gifts from my real friends were thoughtful and kind. Laura left early, and for the first time in my life I didn't feel the need to go after her. Because she wasn't my responsibility anymore. The calls. They didn't take long to come. Not even 12 hours passed before the phone call started. I woke up the next morning to 22 missed calls and an inbox full of messages. Mom, Elena, we need to talk. Laura is devastated. You humiliated her in front of everyone. Was that really necessary? Dad, this has gone too far. Call me. Laura. You're a toxic sister. It was a joke. You're seriously going to leave me homeless over a joke? Yes, Laura's classic victim act when things didn't go her way. I ignored all the messages. Hugo, my husband, sipped his coffee next to me as he checked his own phone. He grinned. Looks like the storm has started. He showed me the screen. My cousin Valeria had posted. Some people. Gives pregnant sister used diapers then cries when she gets what she deserves. Actions have consequences. The comments were brutal. Laura's been leeching off Elena for years. She had it coming. Seriously thought that was funny? What cruelty. She's lucky Elena even gave her a week to leave. I let out a sigh of satisfaction. Finally, people were seeing who she really was. Hugo chuckled, sliding his arm around my waist. So what's the plan? I took a sip of my tea. I'm going to let her stew for a bit. Then I'll deal with them. The family manipulation attempt. By noon, my mother showed up at my house unannounced. She didn't even wait for me to open the door before barging in. Elena, we need to talk. Folding my arms, I looked at her with indifference. You could have called. I did call, my mother huffed, sinking onto the sofa. You ignored me. I leaned against the wall unmoved. And Mom sighed dramatically, as if she were the victim in this situation. Laura made a mistake, but you're overreacting. Kicking her out of her house over a harmless joke? That's cruel, Lena. I raised an eyebrow. Harmless? She didn't mean it maliciously, Mom insisted. She just has a strange sense of humor. She humiliated me in front of everyone, I retorted. You saw it yourself. She was laughing the whole time. Mom waved a hand dismissively. She's your sister, Elena. You can't just discard family over one bad decision. I let out a bitter laugh. One? You mean years of bad decisions. Years of enabling her problems. Mom flinched. She's going through a hard time. And whose fault is that? I shot back. She squandered all her savings, maxed out her credit cards, and had 6 months to fix this before I stepped in. Did she do anything about it? No, because she assumed, as always, that I would bail her out. Mom pursed her lips, clearly searching for another angle. Honey, I just want this to not destroy our family. I tilted my head. Funny, you didn't seem concerned about that when Laura was destroying me for years. She had no answer for that. Instead, she sighed, bringing a hand to her temple, as if this were all my fault. Okay, fine. But at least compromise. Let her stay another month. Give her time to figure things out. I smiled. Sure, Mom. She blinked, surprised. Really? Yes. I picked up my phone, opened my banking app, and scrolled to the payment history. She still owes me $3,000 from last year. She can stay if she pays me back first. Mom's face fell. Elena, you know she can't afford that. I shrugged. Then she can't afford to stay. Mom stood up abruptly. You're being cruel. I looked at her coldly. No, Mom. I'm just not her safety net anymore. She left without another word. Laura's last attempt. That night, Laura showed up at my house. She banged on the door like a madwoman, and when I finally opened it, she pushed past me, storming into the living room. What is wrong with you? She screamed. I closed the door calmly. Hello to you too. She spun around, face red with rage. You're really going to do this? You're really going to make me homeless over a joke? Call it whatever you want, I said, crossing my arms. I'd do the same for you. I laughed. You? Help me. Yes, she yelled. I took a step closer, lowering my voice. Laura, when have you ever helped me? She blinked. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. I continued. Did you help me when I was drowning in student debt? Did you help me when I was working 3 jobs to pay for my first apartment? Did you help me when I needed support from someone, even just once? No. Nothing. I nodded. That's what I thought. She tried another tactic. Please, her voice suddenly cracked. I have nowhere to go. I rolled my eyes. Oh, come on, don't be ridiculous. Mom and Dad have a spare room. Her face twisted in disgust. I can't live with them again. Then find another option. Her eyes filled with tears. Elena, please, I'm begging you. For a split second, I almost caved. Almost. But then I remembered the diapers, the laughter, the years of being her financial safety net. As she choked out a pathetic, forced sob, I took a deep breath. Good luck, Laura. And I opened the door. She stared at me in disbelief. You're really kicking me out? You have 6 days, I reminded her. Make them count. She stalked out of the house like a fury, but paused at the threshold. You're being really unfair, you know. I smiled. And you're homeless. She let out a frustrated yell and stormed toward her car, speeding off into the night. I closed the door, locked it, and checked on the baby. He was fine, in fact. Thanks for asking. Then came the fake apologies. Laura, Elena, I went too far. I shouldn't have done that at your baby shower. Please, let's put this behind us. Me glad you realized that. So, when are you going to pay me back the $3,000 you owe me? Laura, you're impossible. By day 4, she changed tactics. The smear campaign. My mother called me, completely distraught. Elena, is it true that you told people Laura stole money from you? She says you're spreading lies. I sighed. Laura ruined her own life. I just stopped cleaning up her mess. Mom let out a whimper. I don't understand why you're being so cold. Because I'm done, I said simply. I'm not her bank. I'm not her safety net. She's had years to get her life together. Mom went silent for a moment. I just don't want to see her suffer. I let out a bitter laugh. And where was this concern when I was the one suffering? Silence. As expected. Laura's last move. That night, Laura made her most desperate attempt. She showed up at my house with a suitcase. It was almost midnight when the pounding on the door started. Hugo stirred beside me in bed. Are you going to answer? I didn't respond. The pounding continued. I groaned, got up, and yanked the door open. Laura stood there, eyes red-rimmed and trembling, her suitcase at her feet. Elena, please, she whispered. I have nowhere to go. Crossing my arms, I stared at her expressionlessly. Didn't Mom offer you the spare room? She swallowed hard. I can't live with her. It's unbearable. She nags me all day and Dad just ignores me. I smiled grimly. Gee, that sounds familiar. Laura's face twisted with frustration. I can't be there, Elena. Just let me stay for a few weeks. I'll get a job, I'll pay you, I'll do anything. I raised a hand. Her mouth snapped shut. I took a deep breath. Laura, I don't trust you. You've never changed. You never follow through, and I'm not going to let you stay here, only to spend the next few months fighting to get you to leave. She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. You laughed in my face at my baby shower. You gave me used diapers. That wasn't just a mean-spirited joke, it was calculated cruelty. And now you expect me to bail you out. Tears began to slide down her cheeks. I have nowhere to go. I sighed. That's not my problem. Her face twisted with fury. You're seriously turning me away? Fine. But when you're the one who comes crawling, don't expect me to help you. I laughed. When have you ever helped me, Laura? Silence. She picked up her suitcase and stalked off. I closed the door, locked it. Out of my life. A week after she left, I got a call from my mother. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me something was up. Mom? What now? I asked, already exhausted. Mom sighed dramatically. Laura moved in with us. I almost laughed. Oh? So she took the spare room after all. Yes, but she's miserable here, Elena. I almost laughed. And why should I care? She says she feels like a prisoner. Mom huffed. Your father and I have rules, and she doesn't like following them. Rules coming from my parents, who had let her do whatever she wanted her entire life. That was almost comical. Let me guess, I said. You told her she had to contribute around the house. Mom hesitated. We just asked her to help out a little. Maybe get a job, pay for her own expenses. I let out a sarcastic laugh. And how'd that go over? Not well, Mom admitted. She threw a tantrum last night because we told her we weren't going to pay for her takeout anymore. Again. This time I did laugh out loud. You're telling me she expected you guys to finance her life after she spent years expecting me to do it? She's going through a hard time, Elena. No, Mom, I said. She's spoiled. Silence. Anyway, Mom finally said, she wants to talk to you. No, Elena. At least hear her out. She's had plenty of chances to talk, I said firmly. I'm done. Mom sighed, but I hung up before she could continue to plead. Laura's desperation. A few days later, I received a new message from Laura. Laura, can we talk? I ignored it. Then another. Laura, please, Elena. I just need a chance to explain. Also, could I stay with you for a while? Just until I get back on my feet? I promise I'll be better this time. I laughed out loud. Right. My final response. I typed back, me Laura, you burned that bridge. You didn't just use me for years, you humiliated me in front of my friends, turned me into the villain. And now that you're out of options, you want to make amends? She read it instantly. The 3 typing dots appeared, then disappeared. I sent one last message, me. I am not your safety net anymore. Find another one. Blocked. I exhaled deeply, feeling lighter than ever. Hugo smiled and kissed my forehead. I'm proud of you. Laura disappeared again, and I had a beautiful drama-free life waiting for me.